Do you know the feeling when it's 9 p.m. and your bid's due tomorrow at noon and you're staring at a set of plans wondering, did you miss something? Well, yeah, we've all been there before. Now, I've been estimating long enough to know that losing a bid isn't always about having the highest number. It's usually 3 mistakes that compound, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. So I'm going to talk about all 3 because I've made every single one of these mistakes myself. Now, the first mistake is trusting in your gut quantities. I remember early on in my career, I was bidding a tenant improvement, nothing complicated. I'd done 100 of jobs like this before, so I moved pretty quick. I did a quick manual takeoff, eyeballed a few things that I'd seen before, and I sent the number in. And guess what? We won the bid. And then I realized that I was short on framing quantities by about 20%. Now, not because I was bad at math, but because I was tired. I was rushing, and somewhere in there, I started trusting on my memory instead of the actual plans. So here's what I've noticed since. Manual takeoffs aren't inaccurate because you're inaccurate. They're inaccurate because you're human. You're tired, the phone is ringing, you've got 3 other bids on your desk, and you're trying to count fixtures on a drawing that's barely legible. Now, the fix isn't working harder or staying up later. It's getting the count off your plate so that you can focus on the part that actually needs improvement. This is what I like about on-screen takeoff, because every measurement is digital, traceable, color-coded, right on the plan. And with Takeoff Boost, the AI is pre-identifying the repetitive stuff, doors, windows, fixtures, so I'm reviewing the count rather than building it from scratch. I'm not guessing anymore, I'm verifying. And that's a totally different headspace to bid from. The second mistake is starting too early. And this is a sneaky one because it doesn't feel like a mistake. This feels like this is just how the job works. For most of my career, I waited for invitations to bid. The GC sends me plans, I open them, and then the clock starts and felt pretty normal. But then I started noticing something about the people that were winning bids. They just had more time, and they had been looking at the project 2 to 3 weeks earlier before I even knew that the project existed. And once I realized that, it changed everything for me. Because if you're only working what lands in your inbox, you're competing against people that have already walked the site, talked to subs, and pressure tested their numbers. So you're showing up to a race that started like a week ago. So these days, I use Construct Connect to see what's bidding in my market before the invitations go out. This gives me room to think and to actually plan the job instead of just reacting to it. And honestly, the bids that I'm proudest of aren't the ones that I worked on the hardest. They're the ones that I started on early. Time isn't a luxury in estimating, it's a competitive advantage. Now, the third mistake, and this is one that haunts people, is not having a system to double check yourself. I lost a healthcare renovation bid once. Tight specs, fire rated assemblies, a lot of moving parts. And I came in second by only 4%. When I went back through my work afterwards, I found a section of demo that I double counted. Just one area, but it was enough to push my bid out of contention. And here's the thing, the mistake wasn't the problem. Everybody makes mistakes. The problem was that I had no systematic way to catch it before I hit send. I was relying on my own brain to audit my own brain at midnight after 12 hours of takeoff work. That's not a review process. That is relying on hope. What changed for me was building in a real verification step. In OST, the quantities that I take off is marked on the plans, color-coded with a label. So when I'm reviewing, I'm not redoing the takeoff, I'm just confirming it. And Takeoff Boost adds another layer on repetitive items so I can get a second pass without spending a second night on it. This is the difference between hoping you got it right and knowing that you got it right. And when you're submitting a bid that has your name on it, that distinction matters. So those are the 3. Trusting your gut on quantities, starting too late, and not having a real review system. Now look, none of this is about replacing what you know. Estimating is judgment work, and it always will be. The experience you've built up, the instincts about a job, knowing which sub to call, knowing when a spec is going to cause problems, none of these gets replaced by software, and it shouldn't. But the 3 mistakes that I just walked through, those aren't judgment problems, they're workflow problems. And workflow is something that you can actually fix. If you're estimating in the same way that you've been estimating for 10 years, You're not losing bids because you're a bad estimator. You're losing them because the estimator across town stopped doing bids that way 2 years ago. Drop a comment on this video and let me know if any of these 3 hits close to home. I'll see you on the next video. Peace out, builders.